Okay, guys. So welcome again to session 17th for BW4HANA training. Today it's important because we are going to cover inventory concepts and I'm going to show you a demo of inventory, how it works. And then we will continue with the OpenODS view. We'll create the second OpenODS view, which is based on smart data access. And then if time permits, we will also touch upon composite provider. If not, then we'll start composite provider next weekend. I will also try to show you navigation attributes. So in BW4HANA, navigation attributes have changed a little bit. A change in the sense that they are no longer available in the ADSO. Like previously in the DSO and cube, we could easily access navigation attributes, but now it's not so straightforward. So we'll see how to access navigation attributes and what are the places you can see the navigation attributes. So let's start with inventory management in BW4HANA. One of the more important topics. A lot of people are interested in this, so I thought that today I will cover it in detail. And I also have a video as a part of my tidbits, but that is pure theory. So we will definitely go through some theory so that you have the necessary primer for the actual demo, so that you will understand the demo and the data much better. And we'll create the data flow from scratch together. Okay. All right. So let me again make sure this is recorded. Yeah. So inventory management in BW4HANA. Inventory is a special type of data. It is not similar to the other type of data like sales and item, sales header, sales item, what we have been dealing with. Those are cumulative data. Inventory management deals with non-cumulative data. That's why it is special. And that's why there is a special handling in BW4HANA for inventory. That's what we are going to see. But before I jump to the actual system and create the inventory flow and then test it out together, first let's go through some important concepts in inventory management. The first concept is that inventory management primarily deals with two types of data. First is the stock, which is called the quantity and the value of the material which is kept in your plant for different customers. So if a company produces certain goods or material, they have their plants and they will keep the material in the plant. That is called stock. They keep a stock of the material, and as soon as a customer order comes, then they send that material. It can be raw material, it can be finished goods, it can be different types of material, and they send it for the assembly. If this is a raw material and if it's a finished good, then they directly send it to the customer location. So the stock of the material, the total quantity of the material, how much quantity is there, and what is the total value in dollars, that is the stock of the material which is kept in a plant for a customer. Second type of data in inventory management are movements, right? So because this material goes out and then also comes in from the manufacturing location, these materials, they are produced and they are kept in the plant. So definitely plants are receiving these material. Plant is nothing but a location where you will store your material. So materials will be issued from the plant and materials will be received in the plant as well. So this receipt of material and issue of material is called movements. Okay, so this is also important type of data. So stock and movements are the two most important type of data in inventory management. In business terminology, we call them receipts, that means incoming, and issues, which is outgoing. Okay, and when we talk about stock, we cannot talk about adding them up, because say for example, today I have 10 boxes, okay, of material. Tomorrow I have 8 boxes. 2 boxes were sent to the customer because there was an order. So if I say that what is the total stock of the boxes, you will not do 10 plus 8. 18 is a wrong answer. 8 is the correct answer. So that means these values are non-cumulative. You cannot sum them up, because if you sum them up, then it will be a wrong value. Unlike what we have in sales. So today we had $100 of sales. Tomorrow we had $500 of sales. So total sales is how much? $600. So that makes sense. That are cumulative values, cumulative key figures. But inventory, which is stock, is non-cumulative. And today, if it was 10 boxes, tomorrow, if it was 8 boxes, then you have to choose which one to show. If I tell you that, okay, as of today, what is the total number of boxes? So you will always take the last date, the last or the most recent date, which whatever is the most recent date, and what were the number of boxes on that day, you will do that. So that is the last value. Okay, if you take today and tomorrow, what is the last value? Tomorrow is the last value in terms of day, calendar day. So tomorrow, what was the count? 8 boxes. So total boxes as of tomorrow is 8. So if I do 10 days, right? Day 1 to day 10, and all the 10 days, there were different number of boxes. And if I tell you that, tell me as of today, what is the number of boxes? You will always take the last day, which is the 10th day. And then you will see that, okay, on 10th day, I have 3 boxes in my plant. So total stock of material was 3 boxes. So it's always last day. And this last or first is called exception aggregation. So we definitely cannot aggregate the data, right? So then how will you give the value? You will always take the last day value, and that taking the last day value, that concept is called exception aggregation. That means the aggregation is done with the day in the picture. Without the day, you cannot just aggregate all the values and tell me that this is the total number of boxes. No, you have to ask me, okay, you want the number of boxes, but as of which day? So if I tell you 10th day, you will take the 10th day value. If I take as of 8th day, then you will go back in time. And on the 8th day, what was the total number of count of my boxes? That you will give. So that's what is called exception aggregation. And exception aggregation is applied for inventory because it's a non-cumulative key figure. Okay. So that's what the example is. On 1st Jan, the stock was 100. 2nd Jan, it was 90. We cannot add, it would be wrong. So as of 2nd Jan, it will be 90. This is called non-cumulative. And we need a time reference. As I told you, you definitely have to ask me as of what day. So that means you are taking a time reference when you are actually telling me the value of my stock, whether it's quantity or the total dollar value, both are non-cumulative values. Now, few important concepts to understand for inventory. This is a general concept of non-cumulative. Now, specific to inventory, we have 3 different types of data. The first is initial stock. Initial stock means as of the loading day. So if you're extracting the data from ECC or S4HANA, say today you are loading. So as of today, what is the current total stock of different material and plant combination? That is called initial stock. So that is the data which marks the current stock quantity and the value from the source. This was previously in BW, it was called opening balance. Okay. And opening balance is now called, and this used to have markers which marked that this is the total opening balance as of today. Those were called markers. This was BW and BW on HANA. In BW for HANA, opening balance is there, that concept is there. So we still call it opening balance, but what they update, the markers or the marker update is no longer there. Now we call them reference points. Concept is the same. Okay. It is still the total value, the as of day up to date value of your quantity and your material quantity and value, dollar value, right? So that concept is same, but the naming convention has changed. Previously, it was called markers, and we used to do marker updates. When we used to compress the info cubes, we used to handle the marker updates according to whether it's a delta movement or it's a historical movement. The markers are now called reference points, and reference points are stored in a separate dedicated table. It is no longer in the active data table of the ADSO. So reference points, which are opening balance, which in the previous BW world were called markers, are no longer stored in the active table. There is a special table which is called reference point table, and the reference points will be stored. The opening balance will be stored in that table, not active table. That is a very important differentiation in between BW for HANA and prior versions of BW. And then we had something called, okay, initial stock is done. Now the something called is historical data. Historical data means historical movements. That means whatever movements happened in the past, right? So coming back to our example, on day 10th, if my total number of boxes is 3, so that means from day 1 up to day 10, there have been some movements. So on day 10, say for example, there were 10 boxes. Then on day 2, some went out. Then day 3, some went in, some went out again. And this continued for 10 days. Because of those movements, outgoing and incoming, finally on 10th day, my total number is 3. So those movements which resulted in 3 boxes on the 10th day are called historical movements. And historical movements will not update the reference point opening balance, because those are already done in the past, and because of them the result is my opening balance, initial stock, or nothing but reference points in BW for HANA. So when you will load the historical movements, it will load and it will sit, but it will not update the reference points because it is already done. It has been in the past and they have already resulted in the opening balance. And the third type of data is called delta movement. That means future movements. So if I loaded my opening balance today, everything prior to today is called historical movements. Everything after today, okay, it will be called delta movements. And they, when you load in the BW system, they will update your reference points. Why? Because now the opening balance has gone either up or down based on the movements. So say for example, on 11th day, see 10th day, coming back to the example, 10th day we had 3 boxes. Now 11th day, 2 boxes came in and 1 box went out. So how many is the total value? The total value is 3 plus 2 minus 1, which is 4. So that means the delta movement, they touch and they impact the reference points. The historical movement, they do not impact the reference points. This same concept was called no marker update and marker update. That means previous historical loads or movements, they should not update the marker. So no marker update was checked. But for delta movements, no marker update was not checked, meaning it should update the total as of the day value because they are the future movements. So this is the differentiation between the type of data which we receive as a part of the extractor from the source, which is your S4HANA. So it's very important for you to, understand the difference. Initial stock is the total stock value as of the loading time, whenever you are loading the data in BW, the extraction time. Historical data is whatever has resulted in that opening balance or reference points, and delta is whatever is going to happen, okay, starting today and tomorrow, and that will impact your total stock. So this is the concept of initial stock, historical movements, and delta movements in inventory. Now there is another concept called validity period. Validity period defines that since what time or since when your key figures are valid from. So an example is that if you have an ADSO and that has 0 cal day, it has data from 1st January to 31st January. Okay. Now if you run a query and you check the stock balance every day for per plant, it will calculate the balance for each plant and material and show you starting from 1st January onwards. Now suppose on 1st Jan, there was a plant which was not there on 1st of Jan. Okay. So it actually, the plant opened, say for example, on 1st June. Okay. That plant was inaugurated. That plant was not there at all with the company on 1st of Jan. They opened a new plant on 1st of June. And from there onwards, the plant started having the material and the stock was kept in that plant. So from 1st Jan to 1st June, the plant did not exist. And if you don't have validity, then you will see value 00000 all the way starting from 1st Jan to 1st June. The value, the stock value and the stock quantity of the materials for the new plant will show as 0. Okay, because that plant did not exist. But if you don't want that, right, you want to show the values, or you want to see the values for that plant only when it was valid from, only when the plant was opened from, which was 1st June 2020, then you will have to make sure that the validity period is there, maintained, and by default it is maintained for the calendar day. By default, the validity period is maintained for calendar day, but you can include more info objects if you want for the validity. But by default, day, which is your time reference characteristics, is automatically added by system, and that is the most important one. So if cal day is added to the validity, that means system is not going to now show you 0000. It will start showing you the plant, the new plant value only from 1st June onwards. From 1st Jan to 1st June, that plant will not show up at all in the report because that plant was not there. So this is called validity, and that is why it is an important concept in inventory, because you can have different plants starting from different time periods. Okay, some salient points. Validity table is automatically generated for non-cumulative advanced DSOs, which contains time intervals for non-cumulative key figures. Values in the validity table can be changed with the T code RSDV. You can also change that from the ADSO screen. You can see that from the ADSO screen. This table is updated automatically when loading the data. So as soon as you load the initial stock, you will see the validity. Then you will load the delta, you will see the validity changing, and so on and so forth. Because validity means what? Validity means that this plant and the material combination existed from this day to this day. So as soon as you load delta, the validity will increase because now you are loading new dates. So that date will be adjusted. So as you load deltas, the date keeps on moving in the future. So that you will know that this is the total validity of my plant and material for the non-cumulative key figures. And validity characteristics, whatever you will define, by default it is 0 cal day added by the system. But if you add more characteristics, then the combination of those characteristics will define your key of the validity table. Okay. And then if the validity table contains only the time characteristic, then the lower limit is defined with the first data record which you will load, and then the upper limit will keep on increasing based on whatever data you keep loading in it. Then the next important concept is reference pointer, which I already discussed. A reference pointer is nothing but what is the current as of the day stock quantity and value. Okay, this definitely has a time reference attached to it because I'm saying as of the day. So reference time characteristic is always the most granular time characteristic in your ADSO. So if you have 0 cal day, that's going to be your most granular reference characteristic. If you don't have cal day, if you have it at a cal month level, then the reference characteristic will be your cal month. So based on whatever time characteristic is the most granular time characteristic in your ADSO, the reference pointer will be as per that particular time characteristic. Example, you loaded initial value, your opening balance 100 kilogram came, then 20 kilogram was issued, outgoing. These are movements. So then the reference pointer will be adjusted to 80, and then 50 kilogram was received, which means it is the receipt incoming, and 25 was issued. Then the pointer will be adjusted to 105, which is 80 plus 50 minus 25, 105. So reference pointer will keep getting adjusted based on the movements. Which movements? Delta movements, not historical movements, because historical movements has happened in the past. They have already updated the reference pointer. Whatever delta movements you will load, they will keep adjusting the reference pointer. And this reference pointer is nothing but your non-cumulative key figure. Okay, reference pointer equals to the value of the non-cumulative key figure. This is called the reference, and this is the first value which is used to calculate all the remaining values by traveling to the past. Yes. So this reference pointer is the first value your query, PW query, takes and then travels in the past to check the value. So say for example, you want to see in the report the total stock quantity and total stock value as of today. So then it will just go to the reference pointer table, see what is the reference pointer value, and it will show you in the report. But if you ask the question that as of day before yesterday, what was my total stock quantity and value, then how the query will work? Query will first go to the reference point table. It will check what is the current as of the day reference point, that means the quantity and value, and then it will travel back. So yesterday, it will minus. What will it minus? The movements it will minus. So it will subtract the movements. That means the incoming and outgoing, whatever you have. So it will minus that, and then again it will minus that for another day. And that's how the query reaches the total stock quantity and value as of day before yesterday. So query always takes the reference point as the first starting point and then travels back in time based on the key date or based on as of the date you have asked in the query. That's why the key date concept is also very important in inventory, because you will always ask the question with reference to time, and key date is your time reference. So that's what is called reference pointer. Again, I'm emphasizing the point that reference pointer does not get stored in active data table. It gets stored in a special table. It's a separate table. We'll see that. Okay, so quickly, the previous concept and the new concept, how it looked like. Previously in BW, this is how it looked like. We had the source ECC here, and we had 3 data sources or extractors. BF was for movements, both types of movements, historical and delta. Okay, same extractor used to give us historical and delta. BX was opening balance, which was called stock initialization. This you used to get data from MARD. That is the table, okay, which gives you the total stock balance of material and plant. So BX was the opening balance, initial stock, BF was the movement, and UM was optional. UM was not always used, but if you had revaluations done, what is a revaluation? Revaluation means the price of the material changed. So say for example, today I am selling pencil. I am a company who sells pencils. Now a certain type of pencil, I priced it at $10 per pack. So I have a pack of 10 pencils and it is $10. Now, if I plan to change, or if I decide to change the price of that pack to $11 instead of $10, then what will happen? All the stock of my pencil have to be reevaluated, because if I had the stock of 20 packs previously, as per the previous price, was how many dollars it would be? 20 into 10, 200. So total value of my stock was $200. But now, since I changed it to $11, now I have to reevaluate my stock value, and the reevaluated value will be 20 into 11, which will be 220, right? So my price, because of my price change, my total value of my stock of material has changed. So those are called revaluations. And if that has happened in your source, which is, you know, a common concept in companies, they keep changing the prices. So that's where revaluations will load the data, and then your overall stock value will be reevaluated and updated. That's what was revaluation. So these were the 3 extractors which was there in the past: BX for initialization, BF for the movements, and UM for the revaluations. This is how now in BW for HANA, using LSA++, the inventory flow looks like. So we have the data source, same, no change in the data source side. BX is there, BF is there, UM is there. So no change there. In future, this will be based on CDS views. Right now, it's not there in on-premise S4HANA. In S4HANA Cloud, they are, I think, already replaced by CDS views. But in S4HANA on-premise, it is still there on the standard code. So they have not been changed to CDS views. But maybe 2009, 2109, those versions of S4HANA you will see the change of the source. Source will be CDS views. But right now, whatever we will deal with in our training landscape, they are the same data source: BX, BF, and UM. The difference is the LSA++ flow, first of all. So you have the staging ADSO for BF, staging ADSO for UM. Why we don't have staging ADSO for BX? Can someone take a guess? You don't see staging ADSO for BX. Why? Any?
It's a one-time load.
Value changing.
Exactly. It's a one-time load, and there is no delta loads what we do on BX. It's a one-time load, and it does not have to store the values because we are not loading it every day. We just load it once. That's all. And that's why you don't need to have the staging ADSO, because if you want to rebuild that, you can just do another one-time load, which is going to be kind of a full load. It's basically kind of a full load, right? So that's why we don't have the staging layer ADSO. So for BX, it is directly going to the integrated data warehousing layer ADSO via the info source. Okay, so via the info source, it's going directly there. For BF, we have now two staging ADSOs, one for the historical movements and one for the delta movements. So these are two separate advanced DSOs at staging layer. And then both of them will connect to an info source, which will connect to the integrated data warehousing layer ADSO. So now you see we have three different ADSOs. Previously, we used to have one cube, that's all. And that cube used to handle your movements also, your revaluation also, your initial stock also. But now we have three different ADSOs. One ADSO is for the initial stock of quantity. The second ADSO is for the initial stock values. And the third ADSO is for the movements. Okay, so now the initial stock or the reference pointers, you can say, is separately stored, and that too quantity separately, value separately. And the movements are stored separately in a movement ADSO. And together, all of them gets combined in the virtual data mart layer, which is a composite provider. Previously, all of them were getting combined in the info cube, but now that combination is happening at the composite provider layer. This has simplified the rules because we used to have a lot of rule groups, lot of ABAP routine in the standard code. But because of this segregation, it has been simplified and it is a much better, easy to understand and less code. So rule groups are there definitely, but ABAP routines are not there. ABAP routines are replaced by formulas in the standard content, which is much better and faster because now with the formulas, we can now have HANA execution possible. With ABAP routine, we have seen that HANA runtime is not possible if you have ABAP routine. But if you just have formulas, which SAP has done, SAP has replaced the previous ABAP routines with formulas. And because of that, now the entire transformation is executed in HANA runtime. So it is much faster now. And then also has historical revaluations and delta revaluations, two separate ADSOs of staging layer. It goes to one single info source, and then it goes to the material stock values. Why only for material stock values? Because the revaluation does not impact the quantity. Revaluation impacts the value. Because if you change the price, your quantity will not change. Only the total price of all the stock, that will change. That's why you will see that the revaluation will only go to the material stock values. So this is the new way of inventory handling in BW for HANA. Okay.
Vanshu, Shri here, quick question.
Yes, tell me.
Yeah, like here, the historical data and the deltas we are loading separate, right? So how does the system calculate the deltas from the historical DSO? Because in the olden days, like how we, even now, we do both in at once.
No, historical and see, historical and your deltas are there separately in the staging layer, right? But there is a parallel flow. If you see here, there is a parallel flow from the data source via the info source to your integrated data warehousing layer. So this is just staging layer is for your corporate memory purpose to rebuild. This flow will not be there in the process chain again, in the daily process chain.
Okay, got it.
The parallel flow is still there. Okay. Don't think that this DSO is feeding data to this DSO. No. The data source is feeding data to this DSO. In parallel, it is also feeding to the staging layer ADSO. Same concept. Okay. So now this is what just a screenshot of. Previously, you see there were standard group, then rule group 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There were 5 rule groups, right? and a standard group. So up to 6 total rule groups were there. And we had routines written in all of those rule groups, complex routines for different calculations. Now we have formulas. We don't have any routine. So start routine and the ABAP field routines are gone. No start routine, no field routine, only formulas used. And the benefit, you can push it down to your HANA execution. Transformation can now be HANA runtime. Less rule groups are there. Rule groups are still there, by the way, but there are no 6 rule groups. There are lesser rule groups and less persisted key figure. Special stock key figure value is of course there, which is your non-cumulative, but it has made the flow much more simplified, and transformations as a result can be pushed down to SAP HANA. These are some certain benefits. The change, what is the change? They have split. The quantity is separately there, stock value is separately there, and movements is separate. So 3 ADSOs are there in the integrated data warehousing layer. More robust solution. So if you want to know details of that, there is an SAP note 586163. You can take a look. Less rule groups are there in transformation, reduces the complexity of the transformation logic because routines are no longer there. They're all changed to formulas. And because of this split, the formulas are also simpler. More flexibility in virtual data mart layer when defining pure consumption of key figures based on movements. Better performance due to partitioning and pruning. Partitioning means this kind of partitioning, 3 different ADSOs. This is called logical partitioning, not physical partitioning. This is logical partitioning of data, and then it is being combined in the composite provider. Then less transformation rules. Beck's query does the calculation of non-cumulative key figure. More flexible when adjusting and creating restricted or calculated key figures in virtual data mart layer. Because if you just want the movement related logic, then it will not go to, it will not have to scan all the data. It knows that the movements is there in this specific ADSO. It only goes to that ADSO, the composite provider. That is called pruning. So it prunes, the data prunes mean it knows that I don't have to scan all the info providers. I know that this kind of data is stored in this info provider. I just go there and do the calculation. Transformation logic for key figure calculation at one place allows DTP execution in HANA. Okay. Improved end user experience, reporting on customer stock by customer. So they have added a characteristic customer for the consignment stock analysis. Previously, this customer was not there for the consignment stock analysis, but now they have added the customer characteristics with for the consignment stock analysis. Standard extractors are still the same. Okay, as long as the ECC or S4 is concerned, as far as they are concerned, the extractors are same. BX, BF, and UM. No change there. Unless you are talking about cloud, S4HANA cloud, that's where probably they have changed it to CDS views. So definitely logic is different. Setup table filling and all those things will not be there. But for us, the setup table filling will be there. Okay. Now, this is the most important concept for the inventory. So I want you to pay attention here. Record type concept. So there is a technical info object which is called record type, RECORD-TP. This is not visible in the transformation. You will not see in the transformation. By default, this will be auto calculated by system in the backend. And this is most important from the point of view that it differentiates between your opening balance, your historical movements, and your delta movements. The way system identifies that this is a historical movement versus a delta movement versus an opening balance, initial stock, is based on this technical info object which is called record type, RECORD-TP. This has 3 values in BW4HANA. First value is record type 1. Record type 1 signifies your reference points, which get stored in a separate table. Okay, it doesn't store in the active data table. Then the second value of record type is 0. 0 means that records that are not yet contained in the reference point, meaning delta movements. Delta movements which have not yet updated the reference points, they will come and get stored in the inbound table with record type 0. and record type 2 will be your historical movements, and they will sit in the inbound table with record type 2. So these are the three important values of record type based on which the system identifies the different types of data. So for ADSO reference points, record type 1 contains the initialization record, that is the initial stock balances, which is called reference points. Furthermore, reference points are updated whenever there's a request with delta movement is activated. So as of today, if there are 10 boxes, tomorrow if 3 were issued and 2 were received, definitely they will update the value of 10. 10 plus 3 minus 2, which is your 11. So definitely the delta movements impact the opening balance or the reference point, but the historical movements will not impact or update the reference point. And if you don't do that, okay, suppose why the concept is there, updating the reference point. Because if you don't update the reference point, that would imply that the stock values and the quantities in reporting must be computed as the total of the initial stock plus minus the delta movement. So that means initially when you loaded the initial stock, say for example, 1 year back, you loaded the initial stock BX, and that is sitting as value 100, and it was never updated. So what the query has to do now, if you ask the query, tell me the total value and quantity of stock as of day before yesterday, what the query has to do, it has to go back 1 year. It has to take the reference point when you load it, okay? And then if it is 100, then it will do plus minus, plus minus, plus minus, all the way 365 days. It will come, and then it will reach that day, the day that you are asking in the report, and then it will give you the value. So imagine the kind of calculation or kind of burden you are putting on the query to do, because all this calculation of non-cumulative happens at the query level, right? That's why it is important to update the reference point every time a new delta comes in, so that system will immediately know that, okay, as of today, I immediately know that this is the value. For knowing the as of today value, I don't have to go back to the opening balance load and then do minus plus minus. That update of reference point already has been done by the delta, and that's why it is important for the delta movements to update the reference point. And it also helps in the time-based archiving of data for non-cumulative ADSO. So for example, if you have 10 years of data in inventory, now your system administrator or the client has said that, okay, I just need 5 years of data. You can get rid of the previous 5 years, like the last 5 years, you can get rid of them. So if you don't have the reference points updated, can you get rid of the historical movements? No, you cannot get rid of the historical movements, because if your reference points are not updated, the query still needs to go back 10 years and then calculate up to the day which you are asking, if the reference points are not updated. But if the reference points are updated, then query doesn't need to go back 10 years and calculate the value. It knows the value as of today, and it can just go back 5 years, because 5 years of data is what you need in your data warehouse, and it can do the calculation. That's why reference points are very, very important to be updated by the delta movements. Okay. 3 simple rules, if you keep in mind. If whatever I have said so far is too much for you, just keep these 3 simple rules in mind, and you will be able to understand the inventory. Initial stock, which is your opening balance, will load with record type 1. Okay. And this will not go to active data table, but rather go to another table. Historical movements will load with record type 2, and upon activation will stay as record type 2, and this will go to active data table. Delta movements will load with record type 0, and upon activation it will change to record type 2. This is a very important point. Delta movements will come in as record type 0, and once you activate, it will change to record type 2. Why it will change? Because it has already updated the reference point, and it has become a historical movement after updating the reference point. It is no longer a delta movement. As soon as it has updated the reference point, system treats it as a historical movement because it has already updated your initial stock or the reference point. So initially it will come with 0, but as soon as you activate in the active data table, you will see the record type as 2 for them. Okay, these are the 3 simple rules. If you keep in mind, you will understand what's going on in the data. Okay, so enough theory. With this background, let's jump into the system and start creating the inventory flow. Before we create inventory flow, I'm not going to use the standard extractors, first of all, because I want to simplify things. In standard extractors, there are so many fields, there are so many rule groups are there, and there's a lot of calculation which is going on, which will make things complicated for us to understand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a simple example of a custom extractor. We'll create a custom extractor for BF, extractor for BX. I'm not doing, just the BX and BF, because that is the most important concept. And we will see how the initial stock is loaded and then how it is updated. What is the record type? We have to see the record type, and upon activation, where it goes. And then we will see the delta movements also. And then we'll see historical movements. So historical movements we will load, delta movements we will load, and initial stock also we will load. So before we do that, we have to first upload a flat file in the HANA database. We are going to do the flat file upload process. So process is like this. Process is this, what I'm going to follow. Let me make a sub page. Okay, so this is the process we are going to follow. So we will create flat file for initial stock, which is also called opening balance. Then we will have a flat file for historical movements. Then we will have a flat file for delta movements. Okay, and then first we will load this, we load this, and we load this. So we are going to create, then we'll upload all the 3 files into 3 separate tables in BW HANADB in an external schema. Then we will create data source. With what type of data source? HANA local schema data source, because it's there in an external schema which is local to HANA database of BW. So we'll create a data source, HANA local schema type, for all the 3 tables, based on all the 3 tables. Then we will create the BW flow, LSA++ flow, and then we will load and test the data. This is the modus operandi we are going to follow. So first is flat file loading for initial stock, flat file loading for historical movements, flat file loading for delta movements. So let's do that here. So let me log into HANA Studio. Okay, so let me log in to VDI. Okay, so I'm logging to the HANA database of BW server. Okay, and I already have the 3 flat files which I have loaded already, not loaded, I've just placed on the server. So let me show you that file, those files. So I'm going to my downloads folder, and there we have a folder called inventory. And in the inventory, I have 3 files. One for the initial stock balance. Let's see what is the data there. So I have simple 2 materials, 1 plant. So on the 22nd of September, 2020, the M100 and M200 material, both belonging to the same plant, the quantity 100 ST for M100 and 200 ST for M200 is there. So as of 22nd of September, excuse me, as of 22nd of September, this is the opening balance. That means the as of day stock value, stock quantity of material 100 and 200. Okay. Then what we have historical movements. That means movements which resulted in the 100 and 200. So on 17th, 18th and 21st of September, these movements happened. So these are movements of the past. When you talk about the opening balance was on 22nd of September and historical movements are prior to 22nd of September. So 21st September, we had the issue from the plant, 300 ST was issued. On 18th, M100 was issued, 50 ST was issued, and on 17th, M100 was received, 150 ST was received in the plant for M100. These are incoming and outgoing in the past, which has resulted in the opening balance. And then we have the future movements. So 23rd, 24th, and 25th. So 22nd is our opening balance as of the day. And these are 23rd, 24th, 25th future movements. M100, we had stock 70 ST was issued on 23rd of September. 24th, 150 was received. No M200. M200 was not issued or received on 23rd, 24th. M200 was issued 100 ST on 25th. So these are my historical movements. Please make a note of this. I'll show you something. The initial stock balance, okay, M200 was 22nd. Okay, 22nd was the opening balance where we took M100 and 200. Now, if you see the historical movements, M200 did not have any movement prior to 21st. Only M100 had movements prior to 21st. So that means M200 came into the picture on 21st. Okay, not on 17th, not on 18th, but on 21st it came. And then we have the opening balance and then we have the delta movements. So these are the three types of data we will load into BW system. Okay, so these are the three files. I haven't loaded it, so let's load it now. So what we'll have to do is we'll have to go to HANA Studio, and there same thing what we did yesterday, flat file import under SAP HANA content folder, data from local file. What is the target? Target is our BW server. Select the file. First we will load the initial stock balance. Okay, file encoding is default because I'm not using any special characters. Field delimiter is comma because this is comma separated value file, so comma is fine. Header row exists, yes, and import all the data. Ignore leading and trailing white spaces, yes. Now the table does not exist, so I'm going to create a new table. And the schema which I'm going to use is our batch 2 schema, Devanshu underscore SDA underscore BT2. Table name will be ZINV underscore stock init. Stock init means opening balance, initialization of the stock. So I'm giving the name ZINV. Let me give BT2 also. So I will keep this name handy. So this is our table for opening balance initial stock. So click on next. Now you will see that because the table is newly created, so we are having all the mappings already done. Cal day is integer. No, I don't want integer. I want nvarchar 8. Yes, because the format is YYYYMMDD, and that's the format which is acceptable by BW as well. Material is 40. If you remember, the material in BW is 40. Plant is 4 is fine. Stock quantity, no, tiny int is not good. Quantity in BW is usually 17.3, decimal 17.3. So we will mimic that. We will just say 17 and 3 just to make the data types consistent with BW. And then unit is basically nvarchar 3, because unit in the BW side, the unit data type is 3. Char 3. So we'll have nvarchar 3 here. Other than that, do I need anything else? No, I don't need anything else. This is fine. And the store type, the table type is my column store. So this is all looking good. So at the bottom, you can see there are 2 records only, M100 100 ST, M200 200 ST on 22nd of September. So this is looking good. Let me do next. Unit is ST, quantity, material, plant, and cal day. Okay, finish. Okay, completed successfully. So let's quickly check the data. So if you go to Devanshu SDA BT2, you will expand the tables and a lot of tables. So let me filter them out. So I'll just put the ZINV filter and only one data table, which is the first initial stock balance got loaded. So we will open the data preview for this. Okay, so we have 100 ST, 200 ST for M100 and M200 on 22nd of September. This is going to be my initial stock. Then let's load the second one. So we'll import data from local file. Now this time I'm going to choose historical movements. Okay, default field delimiter comma, worksheet header row exists. Yes. Import all data. Yes, this is a new table. So I'm going to choose the schema first and then the table. So I'll give ZINV movement historical. So this is my historical movements, which has resulted in the opening balance. I'll click on next. Cal day, material, plant.
Vanshu, do you need to check historical, like all data in the previous screen?
Did we? Yeah, import all data was chosen by default.
Back.
Oh, this was not chosen? Sorry.
No.
Okay, so we'll do import all data. Header row exist. This is, yeah. ZINV movement history. Okay, good. Good catch there. So you can see here the 3 records we can see 150, 50 and 300. Cal day, material, plant, stock receipt, stock issue. And this is column store. Okay, unit is not there. See, in the previous, we had unit, ST. Now here we don't have unit. So what do? We have to add unit here. I know the unit is constant, ST, so there is no different units. So if my unit is constant, what I can do is I can add a column. Okay, if my unit is not there, say for example, I will add it and I will say unit. And then this is nvarchar 3 because unit is usually 3 in BW side. And then I will say default value is ST. Okay, because ST is the common unit for all both the materials. So all the movements will also have the same thing. So I am now creating an additional column which is not there in my flat file. I'm creating that. I'm giving the nvarchar length and I'm also giving the default value which will be populated for all the records. No mapping because it doesn't exist in my source, and description I don't need to give. So now I'll click on next. You will see that unit has been added and ST has been by default given the value for all the 3 historical movements. Okay, and then we'll finish.
The data type.
Sorry?
You didn't change the data type for cal date.
Oh, I am sorry, I forgot that. Yeah, you're right. Let me see if the data got successfully loaded or not. Okay, that's a good catch. I did not change the data type. So in the historical movements, the data got successfully loaded, but as correctly mentioned by Mandeep, cal day still has integers. Material still have 4. Plant is fine. Stock receipt issue still have small int. They should be decimal 17.3. Unit is fine. So yes, you're right. I did not change it. So if you forgot to change it, how do you change the data type? Can we change the data type now with the data already in the table? Can we, Mandeep?
I think we can drop the data and then change the structure.
No, I don't want to drop the data. Say, for example, it is millions of record. and this is a critical data. You cannot drop the data. So can you still change the data type? The answer is yes, as long as the data type is not shortening it, or as long as you are not changing the key field data type. Here we have not defined the key fields. So there is no key field, and as long as the data type are compatible with each other. That means if you are not changing nvarchar 4 to nvarchar 2, you are shortening the value. That is not allowed, of course. But as long as you are increasing the value, or if you are making it a compatible data type, it is possible to change the data types while having the data in the table. How do we do that? So we have to open a SQL console here. We will quickly open the SQL console. And then what we will say, so we have to change the data type of how many fields? Cal day we have to change, material we have to change, stock receipt and stock issue we have to change. Okay. So what we'll do is, we will say alter table. So if the table is already there, the keyword is alter table, and then the table name. What is the table name? ZINV movement history. Okay. Just drag it here.
You can generate SQL and then do the changes, right, Devansh?
Yes, I can. But this is a very simple SQL, so I don't need to generate. I will just write it quickly. You're right, we can also do the generate. So now we have alter table and the table name, and then what are we altering? So this is the format, by the way. Alter table, table name, and then the alter keyword. And what are you altering? So I am altering the data type of cal day. So cal day has to be nvarchar 8. Let's see if this is acceptable. Yes, executed successfully. Go back to the definition, refresh it, nvarchar 8. Okay, so cal day has been changed. So that means the value did not get curtailed when I did nvarchar 8. If the value would have been more than 8, system would throw me an error saying that no data will be lost. There will be loss of data. So I will not allow that. But since nvarchar 8 easily accommodates the values, then though it accepted and it changed. So we have changed it while we have the data in it. Okay, so if you just refresh the data is still intact. Now we will copy this and we will paste it again. One for material, second for the stock issue, and third for the stock receipt. Okay, so we will say this is material and we want nvarchar 40. Then we have this is decimal, right? So we will do stock issue first. Decimal 17.3. Okay, and same thing here. Stock receipt decimal 17.3. Okay, so let's see if this works. So first we will go for the material and nvarchar 40. Yes, done successfully. Alter stock issue 17.3. Yep, done. And then alter. Oh, there is a problem. STCK receipt. Okay, RECEIPT. I think that is the correct spelling. Yep, done. So now you refresh this and the data type should show you correctly nvarchar 40 decimal 17.3 decimal 17.3, and then we have the unit as 3. Okay, so this is these are the SQL statements, the format of the SQL statement. If you want to change the data type, and of course make sure that it is compatible, it is not resulting in a loss of data, and then you can easily do that. And unit was already added, right? So yeah, unit was added. So in the movement history, good. So now we will load the third file, which is your delta movements. So we'll load it, browse, delta movements, default comma is fine, import all data, ignoring spaces. The schema is our batch 2, and then this is the INV movement delta. Previous one was movement historical, and this is delta movements. Then we'll go next. Okay, now I'll not forget. So let's change it now. So we will change it to nvarchar 8 automatically, nvarchar 40 here. nvarchar 4 is fine. This is decimal 17.3. And this is also decimal 17.3. Okay, and then I need to add a unit because unit is not here as well. So I will just quickly add unit here. Is nvarchar 3 and default value is st. Okay, now click on next. It will show you that unit has been added with st value as defaulted, which is fine, and then we will finish it. Okay, so all the 3 files are loaded now. Let's refresh. So if you click refresh, the 3 files should show up: the movement historical, movement delta, and your initial stock balance. Okay, all of them has data. Let me see the movement delta has data or not. Yes, so on 23rd, 24th, and 25th of September, it has for material M100, 200. These are the movements. So I have all the 3 table loaded successfully in my SDA BT2. So let's go back to our steps. Flat file for this, upload. So all these 4 are done, right? So let's mark them as completed. Now we have create data source for all the 3 tables, and then we create the BW flow. Okay. So let's go to our batch 2 folder. Okay. Now here in the data flow object, I'll create a new data flow. So I'll create from scratch. And now we will name it as ZDF underscore inventory underscore BT2. Okay. And we'll name it data flow inventory batch 2. So click on OK, finish, and it will generate the DFM will open, data flow modeler. It's an empty model. So now we have to create everything from scratch. So let's do the skeleton first, the blueprint. What is the blueprint? I will have 3 data sources: data source 1, data source 2, data source 3. One is for the opening balance, initials, nothing but stock initialization. Then I will have for delta movements and for historical movements. Then let's rename them so that we know what I'm talking about. ZDS underscore BX. We will just name it as BX so that we can relate to the previous BW version data sources, which is also extractor is same. So we will just name it as BX to identify whether it's initial stock or delta movements or historical movement. So we will say ZDS underscore BF underscore history, and then this is my ZDS underscore BF underscore delta. So we have historical movement and we have delta movement and we have the initialization stock. Now initialization does not have a staging ADSO, so we don't need a staging ADSO for the initialization opening balance. So what we need an info source. We'll call it ZIS underscore BX. We'll connect this, and then we need a integrated data warehousing layer ADSO. So we will call it Z. Okay, so I'm going a little bit different than the LSA++, okay, because I want to show you the combined effect. In here, in the LSA++, if you go back to the notes here, in the LSA++, they have 3 different ADSOs here, one for the quantity, values, and movements. And then the final effect you can see in the composite provider. But I want to show you the final effect at the ADSO level itself. So that's why what I will do is I will just create one integrated data warehousing layer ADSO. So I'll just rename it to, one second, ZD for the data warehousing layer underscore INV04, because 4 is the name for our item. Also we have used ZSD item 4, and so on. So I'll keep that naming convention same, ZD INV4. And this info source will go here. Okay, no staging ADSO here. For the BF and for the delta, sorry, BF history and delta, we will have staging ADSO. So we'll have one staging ADSO here, ZS underscore BF underscore HSD. And then we have a staging. Okay, first let's complete the historical one. Okay, so we'll have an info source here also. Okay, I will rename it to, sorry, I'm not creating it yet, just renaming it ZIS underscore BF underscore HSD. So what I'll do, there's a parallel flow, right? So first I will connect this here. Parallelly, I'll connect this here, and this is also connected here, and this is connected here. So this is the flow for LSA++, including the staging ADSO. Then what I will have flow for BF delta. Same thing here. I'll just use a staging layer, ZS underscore BF underscore delta, and we'll have the info source for that, ZIS underscore BF underscore. Actually, you know what? Info source, we can keep it as same because the historical movements and the delta movements are going to the same info source. So in fact, I don't need this info source. So I'll just delete this. So I'll just rename this to ZIS underscore BF because it combines both your historical movements and your delta movements. So now this has a flow from here to here. This has a flow from here to here. And this has a flow from here to here. And then this is
really quick question. So
yep.
From the staging to info source, when we are not using that, why do we need to map it?
For future purposes. So right now you don't need it, but keep the transformations created and keep the DTP created so that as soon as there is a problem in your data, and if you want to reload the data, you have the DTP and transformation ready. You don't have to create it again. So that's why we just keep it ready. It's not that we will use it on a daily purpose, but we'll just keep it ready. That's all.
Okay.
Okay, guys, let me do a sort. Okay. This looking fine. Let's review this. So I have BF, delta, BF history, both are going to this info source, and parallel flow is there to the staging ADSO. They are also going to the same info source, and then info source is going to the data warehousing ADSO. Then I have BX, I'm going to the info source, and there has to be a parallel flow. Okay, no parallel flow, sorry, because there is no staging ADSO here. So BX to info source to this. Yeah, good. So this is looking good. Now let me save this skeleton. Okay, I have not created the actual objects. I have just created the blueprint. That's all. Okay, and this blueprint you can actually transport it if you want, and if you can give it to your developers, saying that if any inventory flow you create, make sure you follow this blueprint, and they can just copy this blueprint, create their own blueprint, and actually create objects from this blueprint. That's why the DFM is important. Okay, so now we'll start creating objects. First, we will create for BX. Okay, so ZDS BX. So first, we'll have to create a source system. Remember? So if you go back to the process, what is the data source for HANA local schema source system? So let's first create a source system of HANA local schema, which will point to my SDA, Devanshu SDA BT2. So you go to data source.
Why do we need that info source? Directly we can connect the ZDS underscore BX to the directly to the ADS, right?
Yes, we can. But again, see, info source is recommended because if there are fields, and if you want to connect to info object, and that info object attributes you want to connect to your target. Say for example, target has 3 info objects which are not there in your data source directly, but they are there as part of a navigation attribute of an info object which is there in your data source, the field. So you just connect the field to the info object, and from the info object you can access the navigation attributes and populate the ADSO. That's why info source is a recommended a middleman when you are dealing with LSA++. Maybe not immediately will require, but in future it comes very handy, and it can give you that option of mapping navigation attribute to the target. Because sometimes what happens, your field list will be 10 fields, but your ADSO will have 20 info objects. So how will you map them? And you know that you can get it from navigation attributes, but there are no direct fields. There you will introduce an info source, you will map it to info object, and then map in the transformation, you can get the navigation attribute. That is one usage. Second usage is you want to combine the flow and then just one transformation from info source to target. If I don't have info source here, then I have to write the same code twice, once from BF to this and once from BF delta to this and once from BF HT to this. I don't want to repeat that code. It will stay 1:1 till info source, and then all the code businesses are right here. So these are the two most important benefits provided by the info source, and I would recommend always keep an info source. Even if you don't use it now, you will need it in future.
Yeah, instead of these two info sources, we can create one info source and we can connect these three, right?
No, I would like to keep BX separate, because in BX, the transformation is slightly different, okay, than the BF. That's why I'm keeping two separate info sources. You will see. Okay, so my skeleton is ready, and now I'm going to create a source system first. So let me create a source system. So I have HANA local data source, source system type. I have a bunch of source system there. So what I'll do is I will create one right now. So we don't have that, right? Okay, I'll create one. So new source system. Let's give the name ZDebBT2. Okay, and description is Debanshu _SDA _BT2. That's the schema we are going to refer. So I'm just giving that in the description so that we can immediately know. Click on next. Now it will ask you, what is the source system connection type you want to create? Are you connecting to a local schema and table? Are you connecting to a virtual table? Are you connecting to a tenant database and the schema and table? Are you connecting to big data system, ODP, or flat file? Okay, these were the source system we discussed. So I am interested in local database schema because my table is in my HANA database of BW, which is a local database schema. Click on next. Now do a search of the schema, Debanshu _SDA. It should come up. Okay, there it is. Debanshu _SDA _BT2. This is the source system. This is the schema which will be used as a source for this source system. Okay, click on next. So it's giving a confirmation page. Project is this, name of the source system is this, description is this, and the schema which I'm connecting to is this. So I've kept the name same so that easily identify the schema name. Click on next. So it's going to show you that, okay, this is your owner and schema, and this is the connection type. So just Control F3 to activate it. In real time, you will not have access to do this. This is a basis activity. So you will be given the source system, but I'm just showing you so that you know if you have to create, then how to create. Okay, so ZDebBT2 is ready. So you can close this. Now what we'll do is we will start creating the data source. So you right click and say create data source. And then you give the source system now. This is the source system which we recently created. So the name is ZDeb_BT2. This one, not _T, this one. Next. Now it's going to ask you, do you want the proposal from SAP HANA table or view? Yes, I want the proposal from SAP HANA table or view. So what is the table now? We are connecting to BX. BX means the opening balance. So it is ZINV _ stock initialization BT2. Oh, I forgot the BT2 name here, but that's fine. We'll do that later. So application component, select for the data source. Right now I'm just keeping it in nodes not connected. And then you can add this to your favorite, this data source. This is the data source we are creating. So name is ZDSBX, description is inventory opening balance. Data source type is, you can have 3 types: attributes, text, or transaction data. This is transaction data, so I'm going for transaction data. Click on finish. Now, this is an important point. For the opening balance data source, in order for BW system to identify that this is initial stock which you are loading, meaning automatically record type, which record type will be assigned by the BW system for initial stock? Devi, can you please tell me which record type will be assigned for initial stock?
0.
No.
Record 1.
Record type 1. Please remember, record type 1 is assigned for the initial stock. And how the BW system will know that this is initial stock? By this particular flag. So you have to check the flag which says opening balance. I'm loading opening balance. If this flag is not set, then the system can identify that this is your initial stock, and there will be record type difference. So the record type 1 will not be automatically assigned. So this is a mandatory flag for the opening balance. So check that flag for opening balance, then go to the extraction. Extraction is no delta, only full, which is fine because we don't need delta from the opening stock. It's just a one-time load, which is fine. So streaming cannot be triggered, which is fine. Extraction from SAP HANA. This is my table view. This is my schema, which is fine. Now go to the fields. Now if you see here, CalDay is character 8. I will change it to DATS because DATS is the correct format in BW. DATS means that YYYMMDD. So DATS is the correct format. Material is character 40 fine. Plant is character 4 fine. Stock quantity, I will give it quan because quantity is in BW system, it is QUAN, quan. And once it is quantity, it will ask you for the unit and currency field. It's blank. Why it is blank? Because I have not designated this field as a unit field. So data type, when I change the data type from char to unit, then this field will be automatically designated as a unit field. Now you go back to stock quantity and assign the field as unit. Okay. So Control S to save it, and then Control F3 to activate it. So our data source based on a local table in our HANA database for initial stock is ready. And this flag makes it as the opening balance initial stock data source, behavior same as BX. Then what we have to do, we have to create the info source. Now info source, I want info objects. Remember, because info source is part of the data warehousing layer. So before I create info source, let me first create the non-cumulative based inventory ADSO. And then what I will do, I will copy the structure from this ADSO and I'll create the info source. Okay, both of them. So first let's create the top layer main ADSO, which will be your inventory ADSO. So you right click and you say create advanced DSO. Name is ZDINV4, which is fine. Description is inventory overview. Okay. And then copy from, we don't want to copy from templates, no templates. We'll create a fresh and let's create it just a simple ADSO because we know we just have material and plant, right? So we'll create that. Now, this is a standard ADSO with write change log. So how many types of ADSOs can support inventory? Which type of ADSOs can support inventory?
2 standard and data mart ADS4.
Correct. Standard and data mart. So if you choose standard, then you have to make sure that the key figure aggregation behavior is summation, not override, because in fact override can also work, but you have to make sure that the inventory data source, it sends ABR and then it gives us the proper value and it doesn't override the value. So that's why it's important to test it, the standard ADSO with inventory flow, and make sure that the key figure aggregation behavior is consistent. Now, since we don't have the ABR, that means we don't have the BX and BF. We are not using them. We are using our custom data source. We will go for data mart ADSO, where we don't have to worry about, the key figure aggregation behavior. In data mart ADSO, automatically the key figure aggregation behavior is always summation, which is the preferred default preferred aggregation behavior for inventory. So we have the data mart ADSO. I'll choose the data mart ADSO, but you can also choose the standard ADSO. So I will show you the data mart ADSO method. You, as an assignment, test out the standard ADSO with changelog, but without changelog it will not support. If you remove changelog, inventory becomes disabled. So changelog is a mandatory table if you want to have inventory. But for data mart, changelog is not mandatory. When you do a data mart, then it behaves as an E table and F table. Inbound table is your F table, active data table is your E table. So that's why I'm going with data mart ADSO, but you test it out with standard also. And then you check that box inventory. The moment you check that box, there is a fourth tab which got included in the ADSO definition. If I remove this, the inventory tab will go away. But if I check this, the inventory tab comes along. So let's see what goes in inventory. But before that, we will first create our groups and info objects. So first group, second group, third group, fourth groups. I'll have 4 groups. First group is for the characteristics. Okay. And then next group will be for key figures. Then next group will be for your time. And then next group will be for units and currencies. Okay, so for characteristic, we will add info objects. Which info objects we will add? We will add zero material, because we have zero material in our data source, and we have zero plant. We'll include zero plant. These two, that's it, because we just have plant and material. Key figures. Now this is important. So we want the key figure which is a non-cumulative key figure, because we are dealing with the stock and value, which is inventory non-cumulative values. So now we will add a non-cumulative key figure which is called 0 total stock. 0 TOTL STCK quantity total stock key figure. This is a non-cumulative key figure. So let's check the definition of this key figure. The moment you add the non-cumulative key figure, automatically there will be cumulative key figures, which is the source for the non-cumulative key figure, will be added. And the unit of measurement, which is associated with the quantity, which is base unit of measurement, will be also added. So let's quickly check the definition of this non-cumulative key figure. So if you double click on this 0 total stock, you will see that first is this is a non-cumulative. So there is a property which says this is a non-cumulative key figure. That means it needs exception aggregation. You cannot just simply add it up. And where is that exception aggregation? Under the aggregation, it is summation, but based on last value. Why last value? Because as I told you, as of that day, so that day's value it will take and it will show you. So that's why the exception aggregation of last value is here. It's a non-cumulative, and it is having a unit info object base UM. That's why it got automatically added here. And how the non-cumulative is calculated? Via incoming and outgoing. Of course, the value, the total value will be a sum of incoming minus the sum of outgoing. That's what is the total remaining quantity. So that's what it says. Non-cumulative is based on 2 cumulative key figures. These are cumulative ones. 0 receipt incoming and 0 issue, which is outgoing. And your non-cumulative calculation will be total of receipt minus total of issue. That's what the non-cumulative value will be calculated, and this will get calculated not in the ADSO layer, in the query, BW query, this will be calculated. Okay, so query has the capability in the backend to do on the fly calculation, but it needs these two cumulative key figures for the calculation. Okay, so this is what we'll do, and for a time we will add info objects which will start with 0 cal. So we will add all of them and then we'll remove the unnecessary ones. So click on OK. Okay, so others, it went to others, so I'll just move it to the time. Okay, and unit and currencies, I'll move the base unit of measure to units and currencies. So we have the total stock, we have the issue, we have the receipt, and we have the time related characteristics. I don't want this cal month 2, I'll remove this. I just said cal day, calendar year month, calendar year quarter, this quarter also I don't need, calendar year week, and calendar year. Okay, so these are the time related characteristics I need. So I'll keep this, and then I will go to inventory. And the moment I go to inventory, you can see two things here. First thing you can see is reference time characteristics. What is this reference time characteristic? As you know, as we discussed in the theory, that reference time characteristics it needs because it has something called reference pointer, and reference pointer will always be with respect to the reference time characteristic, because non-cumulative, the last value, the exception aggregation needs a time reference, and that reference is your 0 cal day. Okay, that you cannot change. This by default is the lowest granularity of your time characteristic, whatever you have added here. If you have added cal day, which is your lowest, that's going to be taken as a reference characteristic. If cal day is not there, cal month is there, that is the lowest, then that will be taken as a reference characteristic. So by default, system will take, based on whatever you have added, the lowest granularity time characteristic. And then you have validity characteristic. Again, going back to the theory, what is validity characteristic? Validity characteristic will define your validity period. That means if the plant was not there on 1st Jan, it came into picture on 1st June, then the plant will only show up in the report starting from 1st June, not starting from 1st Jan and all the values 0. That will not happen. Now by default, the validity characteristic is defined on the cal day, the time reference characteristic. Validity is updated, a table is automatically generated for non-cumulative which contains, yeah, look at this. If the validity table contains only the time characteristic, then the lower limit is defined with the record which is the first loaded. So validity will automatically be defined based on the time reference characteristic. But if you have added more characteristics, that means you can edit and you can add more characteristics from your list of characteristics. If you add that, then the validity will be taken into consideration based on the combination of cal day plus whatever you have added. So just because it is blank, don't think that there is no validity characteristic. By default, cal day is definitely there. But in addition to cal day, what you want more to add, that's what it is asking. And if you want to add, you can add it. If you don't want to add, you can leave it blank. By default, automatically cal day will be taken. So that is what inventory tab will give you. So let's come back. So we have a data mart, inventory is enabled. Details is material plant for characteristic key figures, time and currency. Okay. So I'll activate this ADSO. So this ADSO now supports non-cumulative key figures and it is inventory enabled. So let it activate and then we will connect this. So remember the name, what is the name? ZD_INV4. Let's take down that name. ZD_INV04. This is done. So the background will change to blue. So now what we'll do is we will create this info source. So I'll just say right click, create info source. I don't want the template to be the data source because data source has fields. But info object, I need info objects. Info source, in info source, I need info objects. So I'll go for info provider and I'll browse and I will give the name of the ADSO which we created, ZDINV04. So it's searching for it. Okay, one more thing. I did not add the info object record type. Remember, record type is also part of the inventory data ADSO, but I did not add it separately. So by default, record type will be a technical characteristic which will be added to the inventory ADSO. Okay, so it's searching. Why is it taking so much time? Okay, let me cancel this and let me directly give this here. Okay, let me click finish. Oh, description I have to give, is it? Okay, let it. I think description is not mandatory. It's optional, but I should have given some description. So now it's trying to refer to the ADSO and it's trying to add the info objects to my info source. Excuse me. System is a little bit stuck, I think. Let's give it a few seconds. I think it's going to come back. Yeah, the name is correct, ZD_INV4.
Devanshu, while it comes back,
Yes.
if we understand the ADSO and data mart ADSO, standard ADSO and data mart ADSO, I mean, we used to do compression earlier with the marker update. Now we have this record type.
Yes,
So
I will show you when we will test the data. I'm going to test the data. Okay. While I do the testing, you will see that how this marker update, which is called a reference point, gets updated or not updated based on the data, type of data. So
my question was related mostly to the standard areas. If I choose that,
yeah,
I will not have compression possibility, right? See with change log.
no, but you will have activation. So activation will act as your compression. Here also in data mart also, when you activate, see, compression is a conceptual terminology, but in technically you are actually activating it. You are activating the data from inbound table to your active data table. And if you have change log in standard ADSO, then the change log will also be populated with the data. But the activation process in the data mart, which updates the reference point, remains the same between the data mart and your standard ADSO.
Okay, thank you. Got it.
Yeah, this is taking a little bit of time, but I think now it's creating the info source. So I think now you will be able to see that record type. It will bring the record type in the info objects. Let's see. Okay, why the system is slow? Okay, so here we have material plan, base unit of measure, cal day, cal year month, all those fields which info objects which I added in the ADSO, it has brought back. And then it has record type. This is the zero record type, the technical info object which I was talking about. Since I took the template as the ADSO, it brought it, but we don't need it. And we also don't need the record mode, because record mode will be populated in the ADSO. So we will deal with that there. So I'll remove these two technical characteristics from here. And we also don't need these. Okay, just with cal day, we will be able to populate the other time related characteristics. So we just need material plant, base unit of measure, cal day, quantity, and the receipt quantity and issue quantity. These are your cumulative key figures. Now, one thing you will notice here is it did not bring the zero total stock. Zero total stock, which is a non-cumulative key figure in my ADSO, did not get copied to the info source when I chose the info provider as a template. Why? Because zero total stock is a non-cumulative key figure, and that is not populated in the ADSO also. It has to be a part of the definition of ADSO, but it will not be populated in the ADSO. That means it will not be calculated when you load the data. When will it be calculated? It will be calculated at the time of query execution. When you will execute the query, then you can see the value. If you try to see the value of zero total stock in the ADSO table, right, you will not see the value of this total stock, which is non-cumulative. This is a big difference between regular key figures and non-cumulative key figures. The value of non-cumulative key figures for inventory ADSO will only be visible at the query side. Okay. So that's why it did not bring the non-cumulative ones. It brought only the cumulative ones, which is the issue and receipt. And that's what we need. Okay. For the BX also, we need that. So now what we all do is char 40, char unit, DATS.
Yeah, but our flag file has only one key figure, right, Devanshu?
Yes. So you will see how it will be mapped in the transformation.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll activate that. So my info source is getting, oh, I should have given the description also. So I'll give the description. Okay. So I'll quickly go to general tab and I'll just give some description. Inventory, opening balance. Okay. I'll just save it and activate it. Okay. All right, so activation is done. So we have now two objects, which are your info source and your data source and your main ADSO. Okay, so I'll quickly save this data flow also, just to make sure that it has updated objects and the versions. So now we will create the transformation. So I'll create the transformation here. I'll say transformation, create transformation from the BX to your info source. You click on finish. Okay, it is HANA runtime by default. So we will leave it as it is. Now you will see that we have CalDay is going to CalDay, which is fine. Material going to material, plant going to plant. The stock quantity is not mapped. Okay, now we don't have receipts and issues for the opening balance. Opening balance will just give me one stock quantity. So now you tell me whether the stock quantity logically should be mapped to issue or receipt. It has to be mapped to one of them. So logically speaking, which key figure should the opening balance be mapped to? It should be mapped to receipt total stock, because the opening balance in BW is treated as this is the opening balance, this is the total quantity and value, in our case only quantity. So this is the total quantity which has been received in the plant. So remember this, opening balance in BW is treated as received in the plant. That means in the receipt total stock, not in the issue total stock, because it's not going out. BW is treating this as it is an incoming quantity to my plant. So this will be my receipt quantity. So that's how the BX is mapped. Even in the standard content, that's how it will be mapped. And then in the unit, we'll go to zero base unit of measurement. Okay. So we have material, plant, base unit of measurement to base unit, CalDay to CalDay, which is a time assignment. Zero issue will be no update, which will be blank. And then you will have receipt, which will be populated by the stock quantity. Okay. General is fine. Everything is okay. HANA runtime. So I'll activate. So transformation is also active for the BX. And now we will activate the transformation from the info source, okay, to the BX info source to the ADSO. So here also, now we will do the mapping for both. Anyways, the issue will be blank, so blank will be going there. But now we will have material to material, plant to plant. Base unit of measurement is mapped at multiple places to base unit of measurement and also to issue total stock and receipt, because they have base unit of measurement as a unit field there. So if you see the properties for this, you will see that we have the unit field from the source field base unit of measurement. That's why base unit of measurement is mapped at multiple places. You will see 3 places, 1, 2, and the base unit of measurement. And then issue will be mapped to issue, receipt will be mapped to receipt. In this case, the issue will be blank, only receipt will be populated, and then it will go to receipt total stock. And technical rules, if you go to record mode, automatically it is constant initial, which is fine. There's no problem. Automatically system will identify that and we can just activate it. Okay. So this is now my BX flow, which is my opening balance. Now the last part is creating the DTP, and I will create the DTP here. So I'll just say right click, create DTP. And what is the source? My BX, ZDS BX is the source. And I'll say okay. And then I will, yeah, everything here is fine. And in DTP, okay, this is a DTP source. Source is the data source. It is going through 2 levels of transformation. First level is from data source to info source, and then info source to ADSO. Here I'll have 2 values, full or initial non-cumulative for non-cumulative values. For the opening balance, this has to be chosen, initial non-cumulative for non-cumulative values. Only then it will successfully identify this as the opening balance. It will take the record type 1 and put it in the inbound table. So for the opening balance, there are 2 important and mandatory flags you have to make sure you have enabled. First flag is at a data source level. At the data source level, there should be a flag which says opening balance. That has to be there. And then for the DTP to successfully identify the record type 1 as the opening balance, you have to say that extraction mode is initial non-cumulative for non-cumulative values. Okay. And then everything else is the same. We don't have any fields because we did not selected any fields for the filter. If you would have selected a field, then it would have come here. But we don't have any fields which were selection possible. So remember, there is an option called selection possible. Okay, let me show you. So if in the data source, you go in the data source and you go to the fields, say for example, for material, I want the selections to be possible. So here I have to, instead of no selection possible, I have to say selection possible. For plant, I have to say selection possible. And then I'll activate this. And then you will see in the DTP, now these 2 fields, material and plant, will be available for selection. So by default, it will not be available. You have to come to the data source and then make sure the property is selected for selection possible. Then when you go back and when you create the DTP or display DTP now, so DTP is display DTP and go to extraction. Now your material and plant will show up as fields where you can filter them, because now you have made it selection possible there. And this is the extraction group by, which is for the error stack. If you want update, by default it is this request is cancelled, record or not tracked. This is fine, but you can also choose the second or third option. Why this is activated? Because I have my HANA runtime. So what is the runtime? Parallel HANA execution. There is no partial HANA execution. And because of this parallel HANA execution, my error handling is updated. Runtime properties, of course, the temporary storage will not be updated because it's a HANA runtime. It's not supported. So that is fine. So this is not cumulative. This is fine. So let's activate this. Okay, this is a special value for extraction mode, and this is only relevant for the opening balance. Okay, so this complete flow is ready. Let me save this data flow and activate this. Okay, so we've activated the data flow here. Now let's quickly do the same thing for the BF history and BF delta. So what I have to do is I have to create the data source. So I'm going for BF delta first. So I'll go a little fast now. So source system is my zdeb underscore bt2. Okay, click on next. Proposal, yes. The table is zinv movement delta. Add to favorite zdsbf delta. This is inventory movement delta. Data source type is transaction data. Application component, I can just choose nodes not connected for now. Click on finish. Okay, so here no opening balance because this is not opening balance. This is my delta. Okay, so then extraction. This is all fine. No delta. So here you can enable delta, right? So we right now we have no delta, but for the delta movements we should have delta enabled. So for that, what you have to do is you have to go here. Again, we have two options: override delta with deletions and pure additive delta. So you can choose any one of them. So you can choose either pure additive delta or you can choose the override delta. Anything is fine because anyways the key figure aggregation is going to be summation. So the data will be summed up there. Now once you choose the delta process here, now you have to choose generic delta field. This we used when we were doing the CDS view, right? As CDS was generic. So now in the generic, you have numeric pointer, timestamp, date. We have the date field there. If you remember, we have the date field, but the date field is not showing up here. Why the date field is not showing up here? Because in the data source, I have not made it selection possible. So if you go here in the, this is BX, sorry. So if you go in the data source for this BF delta, there are two things you have to make. Sorry, I was in the data source itself. So in the cal date, two things you have to do. First thing is you have to make it as DATS, number one. So where is my DATS? And you also have to make it selection possible. Only then you can make the cal day as your delta relevant field. Okay. So I'll quickly do that. We have done that. Material is 40, fine. Decimal 17. Decimal 17. You know what? I will do this quantity just like what we did for the opening balance. So it'll decimal 17.3. Quantity and unit. Unit will be UNIT. This one. And then I will identify this unit for issue and receipt. Okay, that's it. This thing. Okay, Control S. Now you will see that in the extraction, now you can have generic delta based on the date, and then you can have cal day and lower level safety level. And then if you want to give any time zone, you can give. My time zone is EST, so I'm giving that. But what happens if within a day there are changes? Then this cannot handle the deltas because it will override the delta. If it happens within a day, that's going to override the delta. So if there are multiple changes which are happening within a day, then you can choose numeric pointer as your field, or you can choose timestamp. So timestamp is the best field. If you can, add the timestamp, that will be great. And if you don't want to add timestamp, you can also do numeric pointer. Both are possible. So, but for that you have to have a field called timestamp, or a field which, like for example, counter, which increases with every addition, 1, 2, 3, like that. Or you can have a timestamp. Okay, both are possible. But in our source table, we don't have that, right? So in our source table for delta movements, this is for delta, right? Yeah, ZINV movement delta. We don't have any field which can give us timestamp or which can give us numeric pointer, right? So let's add a field. Say for example, numeric pointer, if I want to add a field which automatically increases. If I add a field, it will say 1, 2, 3. If I add a fourth field, it will say 4. If I add a new field, it will automatically say 5. So if you want to add such a field, there is a possibility to add in the table. And what you have to do is, let's add a numeric pointer field here. just for demonstration purposes. So what I will do is, in this particular table, I will add a field which will help us in the delta identification. So I will say alter table, okay, this one, and then I'm going to add, what I'm going to add, I'm going to add a particular column which is, we can give the name counter, which will increase the count. And now we have to auto increase it. That means you should not add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. System automatically should identify that this is a new record and it should add in the table. So if you want to do that, then there is something called dynamic columns. In HANA tables, you can add dynamic columns. And the dynamic columns you can generate by a keyword which is called generated always as identity. I think identity. Counter data type is what? Integer. I'll give integer. Okay, let's see if this works. If this works, I'll explain you what I'm doing here. Column identity. Yes, I think now it should work. Let me clear this and execute. Yep, added. Okay. So basically I added a dynamic column in SAP HANA column table, and that dynamic column means you don't have to add anything. System will automatically add. So now what I'm saying is add a column which will be named counter. The data type is integer, and that should be auto generated always as identity column. Identity column means a sequential number column. Every time you add a row, it will be 1, 2, 3, and the next sequential number will come. So when I added this, it should have automatically given the 1, 2, 3 to these 3 values. Yes. So 1, 2, 3 has been added. Now, if you add another row in this column, in this table, automatically counter will increase. So counter will become 4. Next row 5. Next row 6. So this is called identity column in SAP HANA. These are dynamic columns which you don't have to worry about. You just have to define them. Once you define them, every time you add a row, the counter will increase. And now with that, if I go back here, okay, and in my BF delta, what I'll do is now I have to do either I can replicate the data source again, right? Or I can do an exchange here, which Vijay was facing the problem. So replication also you can do. Replication will bring in new fields, or exchange will bring in new fields. So this is what Vijay was doing. So you can also use exchange. Exchange means that you have to provide the table view again, same table view, and then it will bring the new column. See here, it's giving you the proposal. So new column counter is added. Current is not included. Proposal is integer. Source is integer 10, and proposal is integer, and it is automatically accepting the proposal. For others, current is this. Proposal is carried because it is in the source, it's carried, but I'm not taking the proposal. I'm just taking the proposal from the new column. So you click on finish, and counter will be there as part of your data source. The replication should also do this. So counter is now added. Int4 is basically a HANA database data type, but in BW, a better data type is numc. Numc and char are better data types when you're dealing with BW application server. When you're dealing with HANA database, then integer, big int, small int, those things are good. You can leave it as 10, which is fine. Or if you want to, shorten it, that's also fine. So now we have added counter, which is an auto increment column, and we will go to, by the way, you have to say selection possible, because every delta identifying field selection has to be made possible, because the selection will be passed down to the HANA database table, and that's how the delta will be identified. Now you can go to the fields. Now instead of date, you can say numeric pointer, and you can say counter as your numeric pointer. Okay, so this is how. Another way, when you have a table as the source of your data source, you can have generic delta, and generic delta can have counters. You can also have timestamp. So you could have also said, now probably this can take, you can take it as an assignment. Instead of identity, you can say generated always as current timestamp. Current underscore timestamp. This also you could have said. That would have generated a timestamp field. That means every time you add a row, that current timestamp, whatever time is, whatever time it is at that point of time, it will be added automatically. So try with current timestamp. I am trying with counter, and you can try with current timestamp also. Okay, so you go here, and then you can activate the data source. So this is the delta, the BF, which is the movements delta data source we have activated with the numeric pointer as counter. Now this is done. So what I will do is I will quickly create a transformation here. Transformation. Oh, sorry. First I have to create this particular info source. So what I'll do is I'll create this info source, and I will give CBF is fine. Templates is the info provider, and it is ZD underscore INV04. Click on finish. Okay, so go to details. Again, remove these record type and record mode. I don't need this. You can remove them. In fact, you can remove these as well. Remove it. Just material plant, based on receipt and issue. Yes, that's it. And activate. Okay, this is done. Now you can create a transformation from the DSGBF delta to your info source. So we'll create that. Finish. Excuse me. Okay, so here also it's HANA runtime, which is fine. Everything is CalDay to CalDay. Now you see, okay, now this is fine. No, this is not the right place for what I wanted to show you. We'll see when we will do the transformation to the ADSO. So okay, CalDay to CalDay, material to material, plant to plant, unit to base unit of measurement. Then you have receipt to receipt, and issue to issue. Okay, counter I don't need to map it, because counters role will end at the data source level. Counter is just used to identify delta from the underlying base table, which is the HANA table. As long as it has identified the data, it doesn't need to be mapped to the target. So I don't need to add counter to the info source. Okay, so this is done. So my activation is successful for the transformation. So transformation is done, and then we will have the transformation. Okay, so BF is done. Now I'll quickly create this particular data source, which is the BF history. BF delta is done. So I'll do create new data source. Again, this is the same Z dev underscore PT2. This one, click next. Yes, what is the table? ZINV. This is my history, so movement history. Click on next. Application component is your nodes not connected. We'll add it to favorites, and we will give the name inventory movement history, and data type is transaction data. Click on finish. Okay, so this is also not opening balance, so no need to select opening balance. Extraction, same thing we can do here. We can have the counter here. So let's quickly go and alter table. Instead of movement delta, I will do movement hist. Okay, and added. So automatically it will be added. This is the movement history. Okay, this is the definition. Let me quickly see the data preview for this. Okay, counter is added 1, 2, 3. So now I will quickly exchange this again. Movement history. Next. Yeah, integer is, we'll change the data type, that's fine. So now you can go to the fields. Cal day, you have to make it DATS 8. Material is fine, plant is fine. This we have to make as quantity. This we have to make as quantity. This we have to make it as unit. And this counter, I will better one is num-c. And then going to receipt, I'll give the unit here, issue, give the unit here. Okay. And then I will go to extraction. We'll do the delta here. And then the delta properties, we will go to numeric pointer, which is my counter. And that's it. Okay, control F3. What is the problem? Oh, okay. This counter, I have to make it as selection enabled, that I forgot. Selection possible. Okay, and activate. Okay, done. So my data source is ready for the historical movements. Now I'll quickly create the transformation. So transformation, create from the historical movements, which is fine. Finish. Okay, so I'll go to rules. Everything is fine. Receipt to receipt, issue to issue, thread assignment, unit to base unit of measurement, and I don't need counter. So I'll just quickly activate this. Okay, so but transformation is also active. So now I have data. I'm not creating the staging ADSO yet because I don't need that in my demonstration, but in your exercise, you also create this flow. So you can keep it 1:1 and you can create the flow. So my two transformations, one is from the data source of delta movements, one is from the historical movements are there. And for this only one transformation is there, which is my BX transformation. Now I have to create two transformation here. So one I already created for BX, now I'll create for BF, which will bring in both my delta movements and my historical movements. And then we'll have to create a DTP also for BF. Okay, so this is my transformation for BF. Let's go to the rules. Material is material, issue is issue, receipt has been from receipt, time, cal day, and base unit of measurement is okay. Now see, there is one observation. In the ADSO, do I have only cal day or do I have more time related characteristic in ADSO? Let's look at the definition of ADSO. ADSO definition has cal day plus cal month plus quarter plus week plus year. But in my transformation, I don't see them in the target. Why? Because I don't need them. The lowest granularity is considered for the inventory ADSO. You just need the lowest granularity because that is your time reference characteristic also. That is your validity characteristic also. And that has the other characteristics as navigation attributes. So you don't need to map them separately. As long as you take care of cal day, all the other features which are related to cal day, including the other time characteristics, are automatically taken care of. So that's why system is not giving you the other info objects for the mapping at all. System will internally take care because it's navigation attribute of cal day. All the other, if you double click on this info object, if you'll see, cal day has all the other time related attributes as navigation attributes. So it is automatically taken care of. And also for the time reference and also for the validity, by default cal day will be the driver. So that's why other time related characteristics are not offered here. So I'll quickly activate this transformation. This is for the BF. Okay, so our flow is ready. Now we only have one more thing to do, which is my what? DTP. So one DTP is already there, I think. Yeah, from the BX it is already there. Now I'll create a DTP for BF. So BF delta and BF history. So where is my BF history? There. So my BF history, this is the DTP. It's going to take, okay, fine. So from BF via info source, it's coming to my data warehousing layer inventory ADSO. So this has no special feature, no special option of initialization or opening balance, just normal for all delta. We'll keep it as delta, and all other things is fine. Control F3 to activate it. So there is no special extraction mode here. Okay. All right. So now my DTP is done for BF. And now the remaining DTP is for the BF delta. Where is BF delta? This one. Here also no special feature or no special extraction mode, just the regular delta. Okay, regular delta, just fine. Control F3. Activate the data flow also, just to make sure you don't lose your changes. Okay, so I'll just make it cleaner so that you know that what's going on. So what's going on? We have three data sources. One is for the opening balance, which is stock sometimes called stock initialization, BX. Then we have historical movements from BF, and we have the delta movements from BF. Both are, BF is going to single info source, going to the integrated data warehousing layer. This is the actual inventory ADSO. And then we have info source from BX, no staging layer ADSO for the BX. Now it is going to the integrated data warehousing layer inventory ADSO. So our flow is ready. Okay. Now let's keep the data in front of us so that we know what's going on.
A quick question, Sri here.
Yes, Sri.
In one option, we see the opening balance option, and the other one we don't. So how do the system identify that?
By the flag opening balance in the data source. Remember, in the data source, you have a flag called opening balance. That flag is making that special extraction mode enabled in the DTP.
Okay.
Okay, now we'll quickly see our data. So first we will load the initial stock. So let's keep in purview that what does initial stock look like. So this is my initial stock. So I'll just copy it quickly. So this is my initial stock. Okay. Then I have what? My historical movements. Okay, historical movements. And then I have my delta movements. Okay, let's see the delta movements. Okay, this is my delta movement. It's important to keep this data in front of us so that we will understand that the data is correctly loading or not. Now also, first tell me, maybe Srini, you can tell me, for initial stock, what should be the record type in inbound table?
0. No, sorry, 1. 1.
Good. What is the record type in active table?
2.
2 for initial stock. Okay. For historical movements, let me ask Shikha. Are you there, Shikha? Shikha, are you there? No. How about Shakti? Shakti, are you there? No. Okay. How about Shankar? Shankar, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay,
Zero
Shankar,
two.
tell me the record type for historical movements in inbound table.
Zero.
Wrong.
Two.
Please
Both
remember,
cases 2.
this is very important. Let's go back to the theory. Simple rule. What was the simple rule which I gave you? Where is that simple 3 rules? Where are those simple rules?
I think it's
made
up, I guess.
There.
I think it's 2.
Okay. For initial stock, record type will be 1. This will not go to active table, but rather go to another table. Historical movements will load as 2, stay as 2. Delta movements will load as 0 and change to 2. Okay. Now coming back. Shankar, tell me, record type in inbound table for historical movements. Shankar, are you there?
0. Yeah. 0.
No.
Sorry, 2. 2. Sorry, 2.
2. Record type in active
Okay.
table.
2.
2. Good. Delta movements. Wait, let me pick somebody. Devi, tell me,
0.
record type in inbound table for delta movements.
0.
Good. Record type in active table.
2.
Yes. Now Devi, let's come back to initial stock. Is this correct what Srini said?
No.
Active table is no.
Active table is?
There is no active table.
Correct.
Yes.
Not applicable. So where will it go?
5 table. Star 5 table.
How did you know that? Who is that? Devi?
Yes, Devanshu.
Yes. Okay. Now at this point we will see the tables of the ADSO of inventory ADSO. So if you go to the properties, usually we have what? 3 tables and 3 views. Now here see what additional tables we have. We have the inbound table 1, we have the active table 2, we have the reporting view 7. We don't have change log because it's data mart. We have the reporting view, extraction view, and then we have a SQL view 8. This is fine. We all know that. There are 2 additional tables which are introduced in inventory ADSO. Validity table, which will store the validity. And by default, if we have not given additional characteristic, what is the default characteristic for validity? Cal day. So there will be validity of cal day. Then reference points will be stored in table number 5. So this is your opening balance. This is where it will go. Okay. So your initial stock record type this. So table 5 star 5 will have the opening balance. But what is the record type? What will it change to? So what is the record type in the table number 5? Devi, what should it change to?
Should change to
5?
no.
What will it
Will
change
be
to?
one
Come on.
only.
1 only.
It will be
1
one
only, I
only.
think.
You think or you are sure?
No, it's 1 only.
It is 1 only, correct. So please remember the record type for opening balance does not change. It will stay as 1 because that's how system will identify it as 1. Now keeping this in mind, let's see if our hypothesis is correct or not. First, we will load what? We will load the opening balance. Okay. So we'll go to DTP. We'll go to DTP for BX. Okay, there it is. And it has special initial non-cumulative for non-cumulative value. Execute and open monitor. Let's see how many records it should bring in. How many records?
2.
Soresh?
2
2 records. Correct. So let's see. Okay, successful. 2 records are updated. Now let's open the tables. Okay, and keep it in front of us. So I will open the tables. So we'll keep inbound table. Okay, it's needing, what is it needing? Is it needing an ABAP project? So let me log into the ABAP project. Because whenever we deal with tables and code, it needs an ABAP project. Okay, so now we will go back here, inbound table. We will keep here Okay, this I'm just minimizing. Then we will keep active table below the inbound table. Okay, sorry, it went up. Okay, so table number 1, table number 2. Okay, then what we will keep in front of us, we don't need a SQL view, we'll keep at last. Validity table, table number 4. So we'll keep table number 4 here. Okay, then what else we need? We need reference points. Reference points we will keep. And finally, I want to show you something really interesting, which is SQL view. SQL view we'll keep here down, and this part will minimize. Okay, so we have 4 or 5 tables in front of us, starting with inbound queue 1, active table 2. What is this? 4. What is 4? Validity table. What is 5? Reference point table. And what is this SQL view? This is the special SQL view which is used for your lookups in the transformation. And this is an interesting view because this is going to give us something which the normal tables cannot give us. Okay, so first thing is we just loaded in the inbound table. So in the inbound table, let's see what got loaded. Request ID, same request ID got loaded, right? Then we have data packet ID, record number 1 and 2, record mode is blank, that's fine. Record type is 1. So that means this is initial stock. Did anything go to active table? No, because we haven't activated yet. So just refresh, there is nothing. But in the validity table, it read the data in the validity table. So in the validity table, data got loaded. And what got loaded? Cal day only. Because in the validity, we have not added extra characteristics. So cal day is the only info object which is there. 22nd September to 22nd. Why only one date? Because in your initial balance, only one cal day is there. So your from and to of validity will stay as 22nd September to 22nd September. And in the reference point, let's refresh. Okay, Devi, question. Why reference point is blank? Why it is not showing data? When my validity is showing data, why reference point is not showing data? This is my markers.
Where the Manshu? I'm sorry, I might have missed the screen.
5, table number 5. You see this at the bottom?
Yeah. I could see.
If I refresh this is blank. No data is there. Right?
Because we have not activated the request.
Exactly. Good. I want you to remember that reference point will only be updated when you activate the data. Okay. So which tables will be loaded when inbound table is loaded? Your inbound table, of course, with record type 1, your validity with the validity taken from the cal day, and your SQL view. Now in your SQL view number 8, record type is 1, and look at the data of issue and receipt is 0, and your non-cumulative key figure will be populated here. Non-cumulative key figure will not be populated in the active data table or inbound table. Okay, in the inbound table, your cumulative values will be populated. You cannot see the non-cumulative key figure, which is total stock. Can you see the total stock in the active table? Let's see. We have issue, we have receipt, we have cal day, no non-cumulative info object. So even though you have added that in the ADSO, you cannot see that in the ADSO data preview. But the only place before the query, see the ultimate place where you see the non-cumulative is your BW query. But even before the query, if you want to test it out, whether the non-cumulative is getting calculated correctly or not, your view number 8 is the place to go. In your view number 8, the non-cumulative value 100 to 100, that is, will be populated, and issue receipt will be 0. Why? Because it is your record type 1. For opening balance, your issue receipt will become 0 and your non-cumulative will be calculated, and your cal day will become end of time, cal month end of time, end of time, end of time, all end of time, because it is valid till end of time. There is no end of this non-cumulative value, because this is your current as of now opening stock, and till when it is valid, till end of time it is valid. Okay, but the key figures validity is from 22nd to 22nd, because only one day is added. Don't get confused between the cal day here versus the validity here. This validity is in the data, whatever is the validity of the time, whatever time has been loaded, that validity. This means this is the validity of your cumulative key figures. But it is saying that the opening stock or the current as of day stock value and quantity is valid till end of time. There is no expiry on that. Okay. So this is the inbound table. Now I am going to activate the data. So go to manage request and then we'll activate. Question: what will be the record type in active data table now for opening balance? Devi?
1.
Wrong. It will not go to active data table at all.
5 table it will go.
Yes. See,
It's
please,
okay.
I'm going to ask trick questions to you. Please look at my question or hear my question. Active data table will not be populated. It will go to 5, but you're right. It is record type 1, but the table will not be active data table anymore. So let's activate this. Activate 2 records. Okay, it's activating. Successful activation. Now let's go back, refresh your inbound table number 1, the inbound table. Data gone, cleaned from the inbound table. Okay, this is similar to your F table. When you compress, it is gone. Active table will have data or not? It will not have any data, still blank. Okay, let's refresh our table number 4. What is table number 4? That is your reference point. So will reference point change or not?
That is a validity table.
It's a
number 4.
validity table, right?
Yeah, validity table. Will the validity change?
No.
Why not?
Because we have not loaded any new data.
Yes, because the time, the cal day value is not changing when you're activating. That stays the same, 22nd September to 22nd September. So that should not change, and that did not change. What changed was request ID became 0 here, because now you have activated it. So request IDs are gone. Refresh the reference table. Now the reference table is populated with record type 1, and you will see your issue stock, receipt stock is 100 and 200, but you will not see the non-cumulative key figure. The only place in the backend tables is your 8 view. And now I'll refresh this. Okay, question. What will happen to the data here? What do you think will happen? Will the data change, or will the data stay same, or will additional records come in? What will happen?
Request TSN should get blank.
Exactly. Request TSN should get blank, but the data will remain the same because I am not adding any data here. It is record type 1 already, which has been sitting here. So request ID will turn 0, data packet will turn 0, but non-cumulative value will stay as it is. This is your opening balance. Okay. Now let's load the second DTP, which is your historical movements. So we'll go to DTPs, we'll go to BF history. Okay. Now, question to you guys. Again, same thing. What will be the record type? Let me pick Sorish. Sorish, are you there? Is Sorish there today? No? Let me see. How about Akshay? Akshay, are you there?
Yeah.
Oh, that is you only. Okay, then no, I'm not going to pick you. How about Satish?
Yeah.
Satish, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, Satish, now you have to tell me, if I load the history, which is your historical movement, what is the record type which will come in inbound table?
It will be 2.
It should be 2. Good. Yes, because those are historical. They are not supposed to update the reference points. And when the record type is 2, they will not update the reference points. the delta movements, which will have record type 0, that will update the reference point. Okay, let's run it. How many records they should bring? Let's see how many records were there.
3 records.
3 records were there. Okay, 3 data records, successful. Let's check the inbound table. Oh, record type 0 came in. So then is our hypothesis wrong? Satish, your answer was incorrect, it seems.
It's a historical data. It's first time it has been loaded, right?
And as per our hypothesis, it should be 2. Why it is bringing 0? 0 means delta movements, not historical movements. So what did we do wrong? Did we miss anything? Devi, tell me, what is the problem here?
Initially, it will consider as a delta.
Because
right?
now this is the first load. That's the
Doesn't
reason it
matter.
has to.
First load or the last load. Historical movements should load with record type 2. If it doesn't, then you are basically saying this is my delta, so it will update the reference point, which will be wrong, because historical movements have already updated the reference point, and that's why the initial stock balance is a result of historical movements. So it should not again update the reference point. That's going to give you wrong data.
Because the execution mode is delta here, that's why it is taking as a delta.
Then we don't have any other mode, full or delta. So are you saying we have to do full here?
No, because we selected delta, that's why it is taking the 0.
So then what do I have to do? Should I change it to full? Or are you saying that 0 is correct for historical movements? Are you saying that?
No, I'm not saying that, but the thing is here it is taking as a delta, that's why it is taking the record type is 0.
Okay, so you are saying that record type 0 is incorrect and the root cause is delta. So what do I need to do to fix it?
Just activate it, then it will turn to inactive table.
Before activation, your concepts are shaken now. How can you say okay to the concept, because we have been saying it should be 2. Then why it is 0? No, if I update that, if I activate it, reference points will be updated, which is going to be wrong. So we missed something. What did we miss? Can somebody tell me what did I miss?
At the pointer.
Sorry?
Marker update.
There is no marker update anymore. I told you activation updates the reference point. Marker update concept is now activation. Once you activate, these markers, these reference points, by the way, they are called reference points now, will be updated. And if I have record type 0, it will be updated because this means that this is a delta movement, not a historical movement.
Yeah, there will be a request selection tab. There we need to select either perform delta initialization or only get delta once. I think.
No. Okay, let me show you. There is one checkbox I missed. There is one special checkbox for the historical movements in the DTP. And if you don't check that checkbox, then your records will be treated as regular records. That means delta movements. So for the historical movements DTP, you have to make sure that your historical transaction checkbox is checked. If this checkbox is not checked, the system will treat this as a delta movement, not historical movement. So this is the mandatory checkbox. This works if for inventory, this works for the identifying historical movements, and regular it acts as a history tables. There is something called history tables. So if it's a regular DTP, it will work with history tables. But when we are talking about inventory, this historical transaction will make sure that this is treated as historical movements, not delta movements. So this is the miss from my side. Okay. Now, before I do that, I first have to delete this request. So I'll delete this request first. because this is wrong. Okay, delete it successfully. Yes. So deleted means it will go away from inbound table. So let me refresh. Yeah, it's gone. Now I will check this box, historical transaction. Okay, and I will activate it. So this is the mandatory flag, not mandatory, but this is definitely important from an inventory. If you don't do that, then data will be wrong. So make sure that historical transaction is checked. Now I'm going to run this. And it will bring in what? It will bring in 3 records. And now as per our hypothesis, it should be record type 2.
The historical records will be a one-time job, right?
Yes, historical records will be a one-time job, correct. Only the delta movements will be the daily jobs. So 3 records successful. Refresh this. What is the record type? 2. Now this is a proper historical movement identification by the BW system. If you see record type as 0, that means something is wrong. Your configuration is incorrect. And most likely this flag will be the possible root cause. Historical transaction flag is not checked. Now, in the active data table, is there anything? Still nothing. In the validity table, will anything change? Question.
Yes, it should change.
It should change. What should be the value of from? What should be the value of to?
2 will be 22nd September, from will change.
What is the cal day here which is coming? 17, 18, 21. So highest is 22. So that will not change. But lowest is no more 22nd. Now the lowest is 17th. So my validity should change to 17th to 21, 20 to 22. Why there are 2 records? Because I haven't activated it yet. That's why it is showing 2 request IDs. Once I activate it, it's going to convert or merge these 2 into 1, and then it will have 17 and 22. Now, is there any change in the reference points so far? No. Anyways, reference points we have to check after activation. And then is there any change here in the query? Yes, there is a change. It is showing now me the data for record type 1 and record type, record type 2 and record type 1. Record type 1 is your opening balance. And there are 3 records which got loaded. That's why it's showing you record type 2 also. Okay. So for 1, you can see the non-cumulative value. But for record type 2, you can see the cumulative values. Now, once I activate it, will it update the reference pointer or not? Akshay, will it update the reference pointer or not?
Yes, it should.
Okay, you're saying yes, it should. Devi, what do you think?
No, Devansh, only after the activation.
Okay, yeah, I'm saying after the activation, will the reference point be updated or not?
No, only after delta it gets updated.
Yes, correct. Please
Because
remember,
it is the historical data.
these are historical transactions. Why will it update the reference point? Reference point is the result of these historical transactions, opening balance. So history, whatever happened in the history, remember 10 boxes. As of now, I have 10 boxes. Now what I'm loading, from day 1 up to day 10, whatever movements have happened, that I'm loading. Should it touch the value 10? No, it should not touch. So that means 10 and 200, 100 and 200 should not be impacted after activation. Okay, so let's activate that. So now we will go to manage request and we will activate the data. See, this is what is important for you to understand. Once you understand this, then you will be good in inventory and you can fix issues also if there are any problems. Okay, activation is successful, good. Inbound table should be blank. Great. Active data table, will the active data table be still blank or will it have values?
It have values.
Yes, it will have values. What will be the record type?
2.
Record type will be 2. Okay, so let's activate, refresh. So 3 records came in and what is the record type? 2. Okay, Validity. Request ID should be 0, 17, 22. 0, 17, 22. Okay, that is the validity. That's how it works. Then becomes the reference points. Reference points, whatever the value, reference point value, 100 and 200. Now refresh this. Nothing has changed. Okay, record type 1, issue and receipt are the same. Now refresh this. No change. 100 and 200. And the record type 2, 3 records are same. Request ID became 0. So that means the historical movements do not update the marker. It does not update the reference point. Markers are now called reference point. Now the third DTP we will load, which is our delta DTP. So DTP from BF delta. Okay. We'll run this. Execute a momentum. What is the record type which I should expect in the inbound table?
0.
0, exactly. So let the DTP load. Okay, let's go back. Record type 0. So that means these are my delta movements. Here I don't have to check any special flag. Now, when I activate this, okay, first of all, in the active table, there will be no change. In the validity, will there be change, Devi? Question.
Yes, it should be there.
Tell me the from value and to value.
Val
23 to 25.
From value 17 to value 25.
Correct.
There will be 2 lines initially.
Initially, there will be 2 lines, but after activation, from value 17 to value the latest date, 25. So that is the validity of the total number of records we have, including the BX and the movements. Okay, so right now there will be 2 lines. One request ID, 2325 because 2325, and this is 1722. Any change in the reference points yet? No change because they are only activated after, they are only updated after activation. Now my question is, will the reference point be updated or not?
It will be updated.
It will be updated. Now tell me the value of the reference points. Right now, for M100 it is 100, M200 it is 200. These are my delta movements. Where is my delta movements? There. Now you tell me the value of M100, what will it be? Reference points, and M200, what will it be?
Stock receipt 50 and 100.
180 for M100.
Correct. 180 for M100 and M200?
100.
Yeah.
Correct. So let's activate that. Oh, one more thing. When it will come to active data table, what would be the record type?
2.
2. It will change it to 2. So this is the change which happens. Okay. So let's activate and check that hypothesis. Manage request. We'll activate the data. Activate. Activate. Okay, done. They should go away. Yes. Now in the active data table, there should be record type 2 only. So now there are 6 records, all sitting with record type 2. Both the historical movements are sitting with 2 and the delta movements are sitting with 2. But the difference is delta movement updated the reference pointer. Okay. And one more thing is what we'll have to check is this. So it will be 20 from 17 to 25. Request ID is 0. The least is 17. The most is 25. Reference points 180, 100. Reference points updated. Let's check in the SQL view 8. 180, 100. This is record type 1, and all record type 2 will have the issue and receipt, whatever has come in, but no non-cumulative. Non-cumulative value you can check in reference points, either in reference point or as a total stock, 0 total stock. That is only available in the sequel view number 8, and there you can see 180 and 100. So the delta movements updated the reference point. This is called updating the marker. In the previous BW versions, this was called updating the marker. And now finally, what I will do is I will create quickly the query. So I'll quickly create the multi-provider, and then we'll end the session. So I'll quickly create the multi-provider, and then we will see the query behavior also. Okay. So, okay, this is, where did it go? Okay, it's here. Let me close the tables. We don't need the tables now. Okay. And this guy also. All right. So now I have my data flow, which we created. And in the data flow, I will quickly create the multi-provider. So we will have, where is my, sorry, not multi-provider, composite provider. So we'll just say Z virtual data mart, that means V underscore INV04, and I'll just combine it here, make it this, and I'll create the composite provider. Okay, description, I'll just give inventory overview. Okay, this is fine. Next. So now we will have to add either joint providers or union providers. Don't worry, composite providers I will discuss in detail. So by default it is union. We just have one ADSO, which is fine. So just click on finish. And now you have to go to info provider view. So when you work with composite providers, you'll have to, when you want to add, so this is the ADSO which is there, right? And this is the source, this is the target. So you can right click and you can say create assignments. It will create all the assignments automatically here from source to target. And then no, info provider view, you will work with query, not the composite provider, sorry. In composite provider, it is still outline view where it will show you the providers, it will show you the output structure, it will show you the nodes, what nodes you have, union, join, etc. So right now we just have union, and there is one source to the union, which is our ADSO. I've just created the assignments as it is, and then in the output, it is fine. Material, plan, quantity, key figure, everything is fine. So in fact, the folders are also come in. So I'll just quickly activate this. Okay, don't worry. We will go in detail on composite provider. I just want to demonstrate the query here. That's why I'm going fast. So your composite provider is activated, and now I will go back to Project Explorer. And here in the composite provider, I will create the query. So I'll right click on the composite provider, new query, and we will just name it as ZQ underscore this underscore 001 inventory overview. Okay, and that's it. No, this will not required. Finish, and then we'll quickly add the material plant and then the key figure. Now here you can add the non-cumulative key figure. Now you will go for info provider view where you will add all these things. So you need info provider view to work with query. So in the query, now see the key date. Key date is important, right? So you can, by default, you can have key date which will be today's date, or you can provide a key date as per your requirement. And everything else, I'm just keeping it as it is. In the filter, I don't need anything. In the sheet definition, I will just put material in the rows, plant in the rows, and then I will have the cumulative key figure, which is my total stock in the columns. Okay, and then you can also have in the free characteristic, you can have cal day. I just wanted to show you cal day, and that's it. Okay. Okay, so now the important thing is, let's go to the data preview. So we'll go to the reporting preview here. Hold on, I'll just bring it here. Okay, and we'll go to the reporting preview again. Okay, so here you see the quantity total stock is on the fly calculated. This is the non-cumulative key figure, quantity total stock, which is for P100, plant 400, it is 180 PC, plant is same. So you can actually, you can remove plant. For material M200, it is 100 PC. ST is actually stands for PC. Now, if you bring in cal day, you will see something interesting. What you will see is that it for quantity total stock for M100, I will remove the plant 180. Yeah. So you see here we have data till 17th. From 17 till 25 we have data, but system has created 16th also, one day before. System by default it creates that one day before cal day, and then it has given the value 500 and given the value 150 to here it is given 0, but if you see the 17th it has given 150. See, now this is where the data will come into picture. So what I told you is M100 had the value 17, right, where it was 150 was a receipt, and that's what it is showing. But M200 started from which date? Started from 21st. Before 21st there was no value for M200. Now on 21st there was issue was 300. After issuing 300, how much was left? 200 was left, because that's what got loaded on 22nd. So on 21st we had 300 which was sent out, and after the result of sending out 200 was remaining. So that means on 21st what would have been the total value before the issue?
500.
That's what system gave as 500 PC for M200. So what system does is, if the value is not there, it will add the value going back in time, and then it will give you that this must be the total value. After subtracting 300, you gave me opening balance of 200. These are the historical transactions. That means system automatically calculated that it would have been 500, where if you issue 300, then 200 was left, and then the remaining values will be there. So two things we can gather from this. First is this quantity total stock is calculated on the fly by the system, and this is nothing but your receipts minus issues. So it will check the reference point. If the reference point, so if I remove the cal date, is as of today, and as of today, this is my total value 180 and 100. How did it calculate? It went to the reference point and then it gave the reference point. If I would have said that give me the data as of a particular cal day, not as of today, maybe as of as of 24th or as of 23rd, then as of 23rd it will be 30 for M100, and as of 23rd it will be 200 for M200. So it does from the reference point, it does minus plus issue receipts and arrives at a particular day and gives you the value. So that calculation happens on the fly. But that calculation in the back end, where you can see your query view number 8, that will show you that particular calculation, what's happening. That means the reference point, what is the current value of the reference point, that you can see there. So this is how the inventory management works. And definitely key date, as I told you, you should give a variable here. So in the key date, you can, this is a variable screen, so you can select the variable. And if you don't find a suitable variable, you can create a Z variable if you want. And then based on the Z variable, how you will create Z variable? In the info provider view, go to the cal day, and there you will see the attributes, value variables and values. So under value variables, if you find 0101 is standard, but if you don't find it, then you can just right click and create new variable for Z cal day and provide that cal day. Okay, so this is your assignment. Create a variable, provide the value of cal day, and see whether the calculation is happening correctly as of that day or not. Okay, but if you don't provide any key date, default is current date. That's what it takes. All right, so with that, I hope inventory became a little bit more meaningful to you, and I will stop the session for the main class.